Have you ever woke up and noticed that, hey, one of my games on Steam got updated? So you check the changelog and then you say, but I didn't want that to change. It's an update. It adds more content for me to enjoy. The idea of more things just being given to you sounds like a fine deal. How it's treated in video games is that a game is released, it receives an update or patch. The update adds or changes different parts to or from the game, and gives everyone something else to play with or for in their new updated environment. In concept, this shouldn't be much of a problem to anyone. Everyone wins, right? Especially if it's a multiplayer game. It now enables people to enjoy these new aspects with everyone else, so all players have a new perspective of what's what. What an actual issue that stems from this is unreliability, uncertainty, and altered deal. You want to play one of your games. Turns out it's updated. You update it, and you find out that developers have permanently removed a certain portion of the game. It could be a level, a boss, an item, or even an actual game mechanic that's just gone from the game, never to be seen again. What happens if it's something you liked? What is the remedy to this situation? Just deal and cope with it? What prompted the change for this? Did the community vote for this or something? Why is my game suddenly changed because other people wanted it to be? This applies to games from all genres and playstyle environments, from single-player games to multiplayer to MMOs and only multiplayer-enabled games. In reference, what I'll address here is a certain part of a game called Fistful of Frags, a multiplayer FPS centered in the old American West. The key word there is indeed multiplayer, but I'll touch on that later. In Fistful of Frags, you join a server, grab a gun, and start shooting other players. The rules set for the game changes given the type of level you're playing. Some are capture the flag-esque maps, payloads, free-for-alls, it's variety. In a deathmatch scene, you can enable what's called Gentleman Mode, an item you can equip at the start of your next life. It slightly alters how the player approaches the game. Whereas the normal goal of deathmatch is to kill everyone you see and be awarded points thusly, Gentleman Mode changes how you go about it. It makes it so you have to kill people in a certain way, and in return, ascertain more points. Put in the hands of an expert player and he'll rack up points faster than anyone else can. And that was one of its mechanics. It's a way to alter gameplay to not all players, but just the ones that selected this. You would be in the same server with others who enabled and did not enable this on themselves. In the end, an update came out eventually, and it disabled this mode. It was removed for, and this is based off of a quote from the unofficial wiki, due to its complexity and somewhat confusing nature. Did this really need to be removed? There's no option in a standard game now to use it. It's gone. Was there outcry on forums and communities to have it removed or remade? Why did the wishes of others get granted over yours? Couldn't it have been left in the game, just simply not a standardized option available to normal servers? It's a free update. You're usually expected to enjoy such a luxury these days, that you receive more bang for your buck. There's no option to revert to previous versions of the game, save an example for the allowed ability to re-download the last publicly released one. But those get phased out over time. If you want to keep a hold of the one you like most, you need to keep on the trigger, or its data may very well be wiped from existence. Now you may rant back and say, it's a multiplayer only game. Of course the rules will need to be standardized and fair, otherwise X, Y, and Z could happen, or the community may get split, or some other catastrophe. Take a look at another game, Terraria. That's not only a single player game, but a multiplayer one. It's your choice which of the two you play, and you can switch at any time, even with the same player characters. But what you can't do is revert back the version of the game, not unless you had saved the data from way back when. Terraria has received tons of free and generally appreciated updates over the years. You'll tend to hear more good than bad about them. But regardless, that doesn't mean that someone didn't like one thing that changed, and prefers to play an older version. Perhaps in his situation, he didn't know of an update coming out, and now regrettably, he's stuck on this new one, forced to, should he ever boot up the game again. It's a bane of platforms like Steam, that enable developers to release updates whenever they want, and force your games to be updated, should you ever be logged in and connected to the internet. It's not like you have an old disc of the vanilla game hanging around. These are digital games only. You're at the whim of when it changes, whether you really like it or not. Your only hope is to just have yourself cut off from the internet, so something like Steam doesn't know that there's an update, and you can simply play like that. This dilemma doesn't just apply to current games that get updates. This applies to remakes and enhanced editions of games as well. Take Baldurs Gate for example. An enhanced edition version of the game was eventually released, and fans of the old series were very excited. Things were going well, the game was appreciated, the sequel eventually made its way, it was great. A healthy option to people if they were new to the series and wanted to try it. Kind of a few years ahead, they released the awaited Baldur's Gate Dragonspear expansion. a completely new project to tie in the first game with its sequel. This wasn't done before, so it was new territory, and it was exciting to see what they would do. What they had mentioned later on is the developers, Beamdog, were also releasing an updated engine of the game as well, something to improve it even more. What happened was a catastrophe. The 2.0 update came out, and horribly broke the game in several ways. Game mechanics did not function correctly, game breaking and crashing bugs were introduced, multiplayer was completely fucked over, it was a slew of disappointment and destruction, and the expansion itself was getting mixed views. It was a forced update. You had an option though, enabling you to re-download the older 1.3 version for yourself. But somehow in the midst of this, the old 1.3 was also riddled with bugs, very well actually crashing the game in only a few minutes in the introductory. They eventually fixed much of the 2.0 issues, and also rectified the old 1.3 version to function correctly. But this was all unnecessary heartache for an update that, honestly, not everyone was looking forward to. But hey, it's free, yeah? A platform like Steam thrives on this kind of system. Automatic fast updates to keep you in pace. That's fine. Other platforms, such as GOG, however, give you options, the choice to update if you wish. Mind you, it's not perfect either. You need to have the versions you wanted to begin with, but at least you're not at sword's end to update with this. This situation gets worse for other games too. It can apply to games such as State of Decay, where you are no longer allowed to buy the original game anymore. If you want it, you have to buy the new enhanced version, which by the way is not like nearly as much as the original. How long will this kind of stuff go on? What'll happen to something like the Skyrim Special Edition? Will new buyers be forced to pay for the new product, not the old? And that's a game that's focused almost entirely around mods now. What'll happen there into the community? This applies elsewhere and everywhere, but hey, it's just a nice little update to give you more stuff. Right?